All right, welcome everybody. What you just saw as we were getting ready to get started was the Gnomon 2020 student reel. That's all student work at the Gnomon School. And we are super proud to be hosting and sponsoring these all-star artist jams that are a part of Lightbox Expo Online this weekend. If you are tuning in and not from Lightbox, you've got to go check it out. Just go to lightboxexpo.com. It is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing artist conferences. Just debuted last year in Pasadena, right here in my backyard, at the convention center, started by Bobby Chu and his team with schoolism and everything. And it was an amazing event this year. They've continued to be very innovative and have moved the entire thing online, and it has been a massive amount of content and connections for artists all weekend, and today's event is a part of that. My name is Adam Hartel. I'll be your host today, and I'm super excited to do this. I work at Gnomon as a Gnomon representative, and I'm also a freelance concept artist. And today, we are hosting a group of fantastic artists on a shared cloud-based canvas, very similar to Photoshop, called Magma Studio. We've been using this all weekend with Lightbox, and we've got some amazing artists that have already started to warm up and sketch and draw collaboratively. So this is a tremendous opportunity that would be very difficult to do with a live event. It's a unique thing that we can do because we are working with limitations of social distancing and those kinds of things under present circumstances. And we all know that with limitations often comes creative solutions. And so this is one of them. So, at a live event, everybody would have a different perspective of what's going on. But now we all get to essentially look over the shoulders of these artists, see what they're drawing, interact with them through questions in the chat, and hear what they have to say to each other as they draw together. Just a quick word about the sponsor of today's chat. Gnomon is a 3D art school based in Hollywood. And for over 20 years, Gnomon has specialized in training artists for careers in visual effects, animation, and games. So we build 3D skills, 3D generalist skill sets in the pipeline on traditional foundational art skills, that are so important when you move into the digital realm. So if you're interested in Gnomon, I'll be sharing a few things in the chat if you want to get connected, and I'll tell you just a little bit later about a discount that we also want to offer for individual classes to people attending Lightbox. But with that, I want to bring the attention to our artists here who are already drawing in the chat. So guys, would each of you just mind chiming in? Just introduce yourself really quick and, just a couple words about what you do. Not
Okay,
everybody all at once now.
I
have to
can
pick
go.
somebody.
I'll go first. I'll just
Alrighty.
start. My name is Ryan Lee, and I'm a freelance concept artist and illustrator working in the San Francisco Bay Area. Currently trying to hide from the toxic air, but I'm safely indoors with filters and everything, so I'm good. And I've been working on a graphic novel for the last 2 years. And I just released the first volume this weekend. It's 75 pages, fully illustrated, on my website. It's called Hissist. Definitely would love it if you check that out at hissist.com, HESSYST. Yeah, I'm super stoked to be here. This is a great solution to the global problem and allowing Lightbox to still occur. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah.
Welcome.
I'm Michael Blank. I'm from Stamford, Connecticut. I lived my life mostly in New York and just moved there a year ago. And pretty much at the beginning of my indie artist career, I paint digitally mostly in themes of fantasy, dark fantasy, with a kind of a fairy tale feel, with hidden parables and whatever. I love drawing all kinds of mythical beasts, anatomy, different characters, just all kinds of stuff, as long as it's creepy and fantastical. And what else can I say? I'm drawing an octopus. That's it.
Awesome.
Okay, Nikolai Lockertsen here. Concept artist and illustrator based in Norway. Work mostly in film, TV, but I also do all kinds of illustration work, environment design, character design. And I do all my work on the iPad with the Procreate. I sort of do a lot of work with the Procreate guys as well. So
awesome. Now, Nico, did you move to Norway, or are you from Norway?
No, I'm from Norway.
Ok. Jeg bodde i Kristiansand 8 år.
Hey.
Snakker litt bitte grann norsk. Norsken min litt dårlig nå. But I rarely get an opportunity to speak Norwegian, so it's wonderful having you on the stream. Yeah, welcome.
It's a fellow Norwegian. That was really good.
Oh, thank you. No, my family and I lived in Norway for 8 years. All right, so I don't want to take over there, but let's move on to the next artist.
Cool.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Gabby Zapata. I am from LA. I am a visual development artist at Disney Digital Media. I do a lot of the art that goes on Disney Social, do some art direction, and freelance here and there.
Awesome. Welcome, Gabby. Yeah, it's good to have you here.
I guess I'll go next. My name's Nneka Myers, and I'm a children's book illustrator and character and prop designer for animation based in Toronto, Canada. I like drawing lots of like colorful, pretty girls and flowers, and I just love drawing.
Awesome. Welcome.
I'll go next. Hey everybody, I'm Ray. I'm currently a storyboard revisionist at Warner Brothers Animation. It's my first studio job, so it's my first year actually working, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and as you can see, I'm kind of drawing luchadors. I think those are fun to draw. Yeah, and the big dude, the blue dude, based on an animated comic book that I made for my final thesis film at San Jose State.
Nice. Cool. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you.
I can go next. I'm Kelly. Kelly Aleshire. I work at Riot Games, working on League of Legends, and been there for about 7 years now. So mostly just making splash art for all the different champions in League of Legends. I tend to also like kind of creepy stuff, like spooky, dark fantasy. I tend to gravitate towards that, but that's kind of my favorite subject matter. But I do a lot of different things for Riot, and all the kinds of different skin thematics that they make for the champs. So I feel like it's been a really awesome opportunity to like check out a bunch of different genres. That's been a big part of my career so far. So yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Yeah, welcome, Kelly. Were you just recently at Gnomon for an event? I think I recognize you from a team that came out from Riot.
Let's see. I'm not sure. I don't think I went to one recently.
Okay, I may recognize you from somewhere else then.
Yeah,
No problem, yeah.
Maybe I've seen you around, some events.
Cool. Yeah, welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
I guess I could go next. Hello, my name is Ulises Alvarado Lammas. I am a recent grad, so I got I got to experience the 2020 graduation in my bedroom, which was really interesting. I'm currently just freelancing. No worries. I'm currently freelancing for Osmo and DreamWorks, and right now I'm drawing a chubby tiger because it's a comfort zone drawing. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Love it. Little comfort drawing. Welcome.
Who's next? Do you want me to go next? All right. My name is Nicolas Bouvier, but I've been using my nickname Sparth for many, many years now. And I have been a concept artist and art director in the industry for quite a few years, probably around like 1997. I started, and I've been going through quite a few companies back in the days, then Ubisoft and id Software for a few years. And I've been the art director for Halo at 243 Industries for since 2014, and I joined 243 around 2008, 2009, and I am mostly a very environment-driven concept artist, and that's about it. I've done a few books. I've done many things through the years. I've done about 150 covers for French, Canadian, and American markets, and a bit worldwide in some countries. And I'm passionate about everything digital art related. That's about it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sparth. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you.
Let's see. Who haven't we heard from yet?
I'll go next.
Okay.
My name is Jessica Fong, and I'm an illustrator in the Bay Area. I'm a co-founder with my partner for Lonely Egg Studio. We're a little creative indie studio out of the East Bay. And we're working on a game that is currently in hiatus because all of our teammates suffered from the unemployment back in March.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we were working on personal projects, and we enjoy collaborations and doing charity work and stuff like that. Yeah.
Very cool. Welcome to the stream. Thank you.
I can go.
Yes.
My name is Fernando. I'm from Brazil, and I'm currently working at Netflix remotely, and visual development artist. So yeah.
Wonderful. Welcome, Fernando.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. All right. I don't think we're through everybody. Who haven't we heard from yet?
No. Who's keeping track?
I thought we all were.
Well, I haven't gone.
Okay.
My name's Craig Mullins. I've been doing illustration for a while. I started out traditionally, moved to digital, and digital took over against my better judgment in about 93 or 94. And I've just been freelancing since then.
Welcome, Craig. Thank you so much for being on the stream.
Mm-hmm. Honor to be here.
Okay, is that everyone? I guess I'm probably asking because I hate to be the guy that misses somebody. But I think we've heard from everyone, correct? Is there anybody who hasn't talked yet? All right, cool. For those of you who might just be joining the stream as we've been doing introductions, this is the second of the All-Star Artist Jams as a part of LightBox Expo weekend, this weekend happening. And we have got a bunch of amazing artists collaborating on the same canvas. I think a little while ago I saw Craig and Sparth working on the same thing, working on something in the lower part of the canvas, which was pretty cool. But right now, believe it or not, these are warm-ups, guys. Everybody just started sketching and drawing as they came into the chat. So as the canvas starts to fill up, we'll eventually transition to a prompt and kind of see where it goes from there. But it's a chance for you to type some questions into the chat. I'll do my best to get to as many of those as I can, but please feel free to type a general question, or if you have a question for a particular artist, you can feel free to do that. These guys are also going to talk. It's also important to hear, just what they have to say to each other as they're hanging out. This isn't a demo. This isn't a class. This is what artists do when they play creatively and just have a good time. And that's what today's stream is all about. But wow, we've already almost filled up the canvas. This is fantastic. And I'm not surprised because this is exactly what happened yesterday on our first stream. Everybody just got to it. And if you're wondering, if anybody in the chat is wondering what software we're currently using to be able to do this, this is called Magma Studio. And I believe it's open. Like if you just type, Magma Studio, one word into your browser, it should get you there. And I believe right now you can even just jump onto a canvas and start drawing. You can take the link from that canvas, send it to some friends, and you can start drawing collaboratively, just like we're doing here. It's an amazing tool that I'm sure is going to continue to evolve as everybody becomes more aware of it.
It's a lot of fun, I must admit.
Yeah.
How is it for everybody? I'm curious. It's fairly similar to Photoshop in terms of the interface and the shortcuts and stuff. But how is it for each of you to be working with this? Does it feel like you're able to get started right away?
Yeah, for sure.
You just
It's
have to
very
get,
nice
get
and
over
simple.
him. Yeah, it
Mhm.
is.
I think something I really appreciate is how there's a lot of little shortcuts that I'm like really used to that are in there. Like I can press R and rotate the canvas really fast, and then
Yeah.
like one little thing is I can like reset the canvas orientation by pressing escape. That's something specific to Photoshop, and like that's in here. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of little muscle memory things that if you find
Yeah.
yourself doing
Yes.
because you're used to Photoshop, it'll just work. That's what I
Yeah.
noticed. It's
Yeah.
great.
You can even change the hotkeys, I noticed, because for me, for the brush tool or the shortcut, I use N instead of whatever the other of E, I guess. And so I always put like B and N right next to each other, so it's like the brush and eraser. So it's fun that you were able to like edit the hotkeys to however you work.
Oh, I didn't realize you can do that. You can actually change the hotkeys on this.
In
That's
the advanced
awesome.
settings, yeah.
That's
Oh,
great.
wow.
wasn't aware of that.
Or application settings.
Accident.
No,
I
if-
keep like accidentally opening the chat in Magma.
Oh, oh no! I was doing that myself the other day when I was first starting using it. You go down to the bottom there, and the chat will just open up. And I think it's associated with a keystroke too, right?
Yeah, I think every time I click enter, because every time I was trying to transform something, I would click Command T, but then I would open up a new tab.
Yeah.
And then I had to click the.
Oh.
Does anybody know offhand the command for the transform tool?
Have you tried Shift T?
Oh, let me do Shift T. Oh, Shift. I guess I'm just used to Command.
Yeah,
Mac.
I think that might be one of the more subtle things that shifted a little bit with Magma, because you're in a browser. I don't know,
that's
but
true.
I noticed that some of the Command key shortcuts migrated over to the Shift key.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Right,
yeah,
we-
because every time I do the transform and I click enter to like, okay, transformation is done. It opens up the chat. I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah. We've got our first question from the chat here. Let's see. Someone would like to know from Craig. Craig, what was your first art job?
My first paying art gig. That would be a guy who he wanted to be the next Walt Disney, and he faked an injury on a loading dock at Universal Studios, got a $150,000 settlement, and sunk that money into hiring me and Sid Mead to design 2 rides for him.
Wow.
So I did 20 by 30 inch gouache illustrations of a Viking reskinning of Pirates of the Caribbean. And yeah, I did a lot of paintings, and they were paid $200 each. That was my first job.
Wow.
And I even got to have Sid Mead's originals in my house for a few days.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
they
fantastic.
sat there, and I was just like walking 10 feet around them to make sure I didn't spill some milk on them or something.
Precious cargo. Yeah, I think I remember, Craig, from one of the podcasts you did with Bobby, something to do with when you were first getting started, you were working with some of Sid's paintings on a job, but you didn't know that they were his paintings.
Oh, I knew they were his paintings.
Okay.
Because they weren't quite done yet. They were architectural illustrations.
Okay.
And the guy who commissioned them, or not commissioned, the representative who was going to present them to the client said, well, Sid didn't quite, paint this in here. And Sid was just so over it and just wanted to get the job out and get it done. He said, no, they're never going to notice that. So the guy, this agent brought it to me and said, can you just paint on that and finish that up? And immediately my heart went into my stomach. And I didn't want to do it, but I in the end I did it. And then it did get back to Sid and his agent, and they were not pleased.
But I was told to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like 22 years old.
Yeah.
So somebody comes and says, do this, and you just kind of, okay.
Yeah, right. No, I think we've all been there in one form or another. Probably not with one of Sid's paintings, but we've been there.
I have an idea about what everybody was talking about with as far as the keyboard shortcuts and all this. I worked for a bit on Spider-Man with Alberto Mielgo, and bring him up again. And he did some paintovers for me, and I was very curious about the way that he worked. And so I wrote back to him and did a video saying, look, you can use these shortcuts. There's a keyboard here that you can press this, and it really speeds things up. And Alberto wrote back and said, look, I want to make this as slow as possible. So like for instance, for sampling color, and he doesn't sample color ever. And not only that, but he uses the key up at the top of Photoshop to bring up the color picker every time.
Wow.
And he likes it that way because it slows him down. And he has time to think and meditate, even for a short second between what he's doing. And I think that limits the hypnosis problem.
Oh yeah.
Of people just getting in there and just putting on the tunes and starting to lick stuff without really thinking about it, which is a problem for everybody, I think. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
No, it's I think that's so important, especially in the digital age. Just because you can do something faster doesn't mean that you should do it haphazardly. And I think we need to be matching intention with speed. And allowing intention to rein in that speed factor until we can get faster with our intention. But we were actually just Tara Whitlatch was talking about this yesterday, and it's I think it's the same thing. Artists who are out there, and Craig, you talked about the transition from traditional to digital. I think our artists who are out there who actually had to make that transition themselves, that they were working strictly traditional because that's what the industry was doing, and then had to transition into the digital pipeline. I really believe your guys' voices are so critical, especially right now, because we're working with a generation of artists who have only known digital to a certain degree. And I think that the way that you had to think about your workflow and develop the way that you approach digital things based on your traditional training and experience really informs a lot of things. And what you just mentioned is absolutely one of them, that taking a pause for intention, not getting lost in the speed. I know that's been true for me, especially.
I feel a bit like the speed is just important in the beginning stage, just to not freeze in the thumbnail, so to say.
Absolutely.
Since we're talking about speed, it's interesting I remember that a few years ago when I told myself that I was going to go slower and slower and slower. And it's interesting how the slowest I was going and the fastest I was going, which was kind of crazy. So, for example, I would constrain myself to 30 minutes, not because I wanted to really crazily stick to these 30 minutes, but to just tell myself, you're going to have to do you're going to have to just synthesize these decisions fast. And that does not imply that you need to paint like crazy on a canvas. On the contrary, I started going slower. And the slowest I was going and the most accurate I was getting. And at the end, I was just going faster. And it became a bit of that meditative experience where it's not about putting 15 brush strokes, it's about putting the right one. And you just find it, and it just comes super naturally. And it's fascinating to see this. I think meditation and art are so intertwined and connected, but we often forget what it means to just be there and to gain the confidence out of a meditative process. It is not ideal, especially in nowadays society where we're all ADD and filled with crazy notifications all the time. But what prevails is really just being able to just be at peace and being able to go straight to the point.
Very well said. I like that.
Yeah, I remember my music teachers when I was learning piano. I remember they said it's harder to play slow, but if you want to play faster, you have to learn to play slow. It's so true because that's how you build that mental and muscle memory.
I totally concur.
I think it was Lincoln who said, "I apologize for writing you a long letter. I didn't have the time to write you a short one."
Yes, I've heard that before. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, and art mirrors life, right? Like if your life is frenetic and on the verge of burnout and that kind of stuff, it's going to come through in your art. But I think, caring for your art is also caring for yourself as an artist. If you love what you're doing, or if you're working on a more boring project, but you are loving your art as a craft, I think that also comes through.
Yeah.
Let's see if some more questions have come through in the chat. And I'll say, I want to give you guys a chance to kind of, because everybody's done some beautiful work here, to kind of, start to bring it in for a little bit of a landing for yourselves, because we'll transition to a prompt after this. But before we do, also know that if you don't know already, you can go up to the file menu and you can save a PNG to your local system of what's been drawn here.
Oh, yeah.
And what we found yesterday that we did was, rather than trying to just start a fresh canvas in the same Magma Studio canvas, I just started a completely new Magma Studio session. And this one will stay, I don't know how long it stays online, but this specific link will stay up, and you can come back to it tomorrow or whatever and, continue to paint on it if you want to. But when we go to our prompt, I'll start up a totally new file and share that with you guys.
Cool.
This is just, this is just so fun to watch.
I wanna just add something, because Craig was talking about one of his first gigs earlier, and it's funny because I was doing an interview for Banks Boutte and Kid Bash just like an hour ago, and I was just remembering all that first early digital phase where obviously Craig was really just had created so much since 89 to 1993 when you did all that stuff. But my experience on the whole thing was finding a marathon, the game Marathon done by Bungie in 1994. You had two games, and I was saying earlier in the interview that we forget how the early phases of digital art came, and I remember that the first time I actually found a jacket of that box. This is a pre-internet era. That's 1994, and I had literally no way of knowing what I had in front of me as an image that Craig had done. And I was looking at that thing, and I was like, my brain does not compute. My brain is not understanding what I'm seeing, which was the very first digital art pieces that were realistic, taking into account light theories like what you can do in an insane way, and all these academic principles that would be translated into on the digital canvas. But the crazy thing is that I could not put my finger on it and say, I just do not know what it is. I can figure out that it's just not traditional. It's having the smoothness, but also the crispiness of something very different. And we were not having any internet options to even find out what it was. So that's the early phases of discovering what digital art was. It was close to zero access to anything. And we were trying to figure out all that stuff on our own. That's the reality of what it was. Yeah.
Well, and that's where most of our techniques that we use today digitally were born, because it was sort of like the Wild West back then, right? Everybody was just trying to figure out the workflow that worked the best for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, I think another story from Craig from one of the podcasts was, it was something to the effect of one of the first jobs that you turned in digital work for you, or you announced that you were going to do the work digitally. They thought you were crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. At the time, everything had to go through a digital stage anyway. Like if I did a traditional painting, they would have to put that on a drum scanner. They would, if it was on illustration board, illustration board is just illustration paper mounted on cardboard, and you can strip them off. So you strip it off, put it on the drum scanner. Of course, the gouache, if it was thick, just flake off. But they put it on the drum scanner and make it digital. And they, well, why not just make it digital right from the very beginning? And I didn't want to. I think everybody had the idea that if you say digital artwork, it was a shiny ball bouncing on a checkerboard with reflections.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, there was that prejudice. And I remember having to drive to clients' places in LA and set up an America Online account for them so I could send them comps. Because up to that point, all illustrators, to work remotely, you had to use FedEx. So what you would do is you do the comp, then you take a Polaroid of it and FedEx the comp to New York or wherever. And then you'd have to wait 2 days for a reply saying you're fired or whatever.
Oh, my.
Or you had to put your image on a 44 megabyte SideQuest.
The SideQuest, those things.
Yeah.
Those things are like digital goldfish. They just die. Click, 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 click.
Now, was there any? Did you in those first days where because you weren't being asked to work digitally, you were just starting to develop that workflow for efficiency, or and I'm sure for other reasons as well. Did you ever get any kickback in terms of like, well, this is cool, but we'd rather you send in something traditional?
No, because at first, Photoshop was designed as a photo manipulation program. It's not a painting program. And I remember, first playing with it at ILM, and my first paintings were basically photo batches. I think what Sparth is talking about, those marathon ones were my first attempt to incorporate custom or non-photographic elements into something. But up to that point, it was, we had Photoshop at ILM to play with and modify matte paintings. It would be scanned in from the matte stand, and then we'd play with density or whatever. And it was always a support tool. So yeah, I really didn't start trying to paint seriously with it until, I don't know, maybe 99, around then.
Which is still relatively early.
Yeah.
Especially given the life of Photoshop.
Yeah, like all the the Siegen boards. That was all that was about, trying to figure out how to paint with it.
Yeah. I'm gonna date myself now, but do any of you remember, who were around to remember, back with the old Commodore 64 systems, the light pen? Did anybody ever try a light pen back in the day? This would have been in the mid 80s. What's that?
I think it rings a bell. I think.
Yeah. It was more gimmicky than it was functional, I think. But this was back before you could. I don't even know if you could use more than just 2 colors at the time. But it was basically this really big clunky pen with a huge barrel, and it had kind of a telephone cord off the end of it that plugged into the back of your PC, and it had this like glass half sphere on the tip of it, that when you held it up to the CRT monitor, it did some sort of reflective thing where it sensed where it was, and it would put pixels where you would draw. And like, I was only 7 years old at the time, but I was fortunate enough to have a geek dad who was really into computers, and he brought this thing home, and my mind was blown. Like, I was just, you could do this. But you didn't have a lot of control. But I remember trying to paint in only, what was it, like 16 colors in some of the first iterations of maybe Corel. Yeah,
I still have some of my old first mech paint things.
That's really cool.
And you can still read the file.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Have you ever shared those? I would think that people would love to see.
Yeah. Actually, they're on my site somewhere. I think.
Check that out. Yeah. What I'm going to do before we go to the prompt is I'm going to, on my canvas, kind of zoom in on each person's art that they're working on. And again, this isn't, you don't have to feel like you have to teach or present, but I'd love to just hear from each of you just a little bit about your process and what you're doing. So I am going to start in the here we go. So I'm going to start in the upper left hand corner. Let's see, going to zoom this in. There we go. Okay. And you, okay. And Kay, I think we're looking at your art, right? The upper left hand corner.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So would you mind just talking to us a little bit about how you approach your art?
Oh, I don't even know. I just think of like an angle and what kind of like dress I kind of want for myself. And I'm like, oh, how can I like put this in a character? And I'm like, cafe settings. It's like, there's didn't really have a summer. So usually I just pick random like ideas or things I wish I had or what I want to do. And then I just piece it together. Usually I work organically, so I don't really know exactly how I want to approach it. And then like, oh, maybe I'm gonna add some like a sharp tiara at the end, or I'm gonna add pearls, and it just like organically piece it together. For my other stuff, usually I have like references put on the side. This one is just freehand though. Like I usually have references on the side, whether it be like clothes that I want to like piece together or a pose. Or if I'm doing work, it's the reference material that the client supplies for me. But for this, it's just literally just winging it, picking it out of my brain. Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember from the introductions, forgive me, are you doing some character work? Are you doing storyboarding? What's your
like my day job, I do character and prop designs at Magma Studio in Havana. So I work for TV animation, and then like on my own like personal work, I'm a kids lit illustrator.
That's right. Okay.
So I've released a few books this year, and just mostly in my own style. I work with originals, sometimes with licensed work, but mostly been publishing with like Penguin, Random House, Macmillan, and some more imprints coming for next year.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like, for me, it was when I was very young, it was all about illustration. What I love about illustration is there has to be design in it, but it has to be so centric to story, because I don't know, a lot of kids, they'll look at the pictures first. I know I did. I was more interested in the picture and how I could draw that. But I love it when even people who are just doing straight up character design, in addition to the more orthographic stuff you have to do, when they present a character in a story context. I think that says so much from the design standpoint.
Yeah, it just like gives the character or the idea more life as opposed to just having them being static. Like there's nothing wrong with being static. I have to do static character designs all day at work. But when you just start adding like elements like a cup or just even like a lean in the pose, how they rest their hand, if there's like grass in the background, it adds a lot to the character. It makes them look nicer, makes them look more evil. It's just a lot of things you can play with just props alone to add like the elements add more story to it.
For sure. Yeah, and she's lovely. She's got a lot of personality.
Thank
nice,
you.
Beautiful drawing. I'm gonna move to the right now to our luchador buddies. Let's see here. I forget who is your cursor's disappeared, but here we are. Yeah, Ray, talk to us a little bit about how you like to draw and paint.
Okay, that's
I know it's a really open-ended question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
but
it's good.
Pick whatever you want to put into the answer.
Yeah, I think I always try to draw what I want to see and just like what I enjoy. I'm really trying to switch my mentality of like not drawing what I think other people might want to see. And when I draw, I try to think of like what would be cool. How would this character stand? What's the personality kind of like? And I try to see if I can have that come across as I draw. And I try to I'm trying to think more in bigger, simpler shapes before, because I think earlier when I first started, I think I was too worried about detail and trying to get everything right. And I think now I'm just kind of saying like, how can I simplify this and just make it clear?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is really cool, and I like these guys.
Thanks. Yeah, the pink one, I saw Uli's chubby tiger, so I was like, oh, let me make a chunky luchador.
He looks like he loves his job too. He's ready. That's awesome. I'm gonna keep moving over here to the right. I'm gonna make sure I don't miss anybody. Everybody's like just jumped all over the place. This is so cool. So I see kind of looks like a sketched out pink tiger, and then more fully realized tiger. I don't know if that's the same artist, the pink tigers.
The sketch one is fine. The finished one, I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I'm trying. I'm scribbling around.
And that's awesome. We had everybody approaches the canvas in a different way. But okay, who are we on? Ulises then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, just and it doesn't have to be exactly where I'm at on the canvas. Just talk to us a little bit about how you like to draw.
Yeah. So basically, I think like super like solid shape design is something that I gravitate towards, especially more recently. Except when I start, I don't like doing like silhouette. You know how like in school we're like taught to do a whole bunch of variations with like different just shapes of variations. For some reason, I always like going towards line, like kind of loose lines, but keeping like simple shapes in mind. And yeah, that's kind of like what I've been liking to draw recently. I know I definitely want to get better at being able to like turn the form in 3D, and getting a bit more like sophisticated, more like complex drawings. But again, this is like a comfort drawing, so I'm just having fun drawing Chubby Tiger.
He looks fun. He also looks very light on his feet too.
Adam, do you know? So it's interesting. I'm having a bit of a lag, and I don't know if we're reaching some type of a buffer limit or something, but
could be. I think we're still kind of figuring out what the limitations are of this. But yeah, it could be that we've got a bunch of layers running now, and the canvas is getting pretty full with a lot of activity.
Yeah.
But I think as we wrap up this quick round, we'll start fresh.
Right.
So that
I'm not gonna continue. Like I'll just leave it the way it is then.
Okay. And then
just quickly, I also had that, but if you refresh, I've had good experience with that. Just
okay.
Refresh the page. It takes a little time before the painting comes back again, but then
it's a local issue then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a try.
And if you're still having difficulty, we can send Craig over to set up an AOL account for you.
Yeah.
Help speed up the process there.
Yeah. I think now it's like super hip to have an AOL address, isn't it?
It's like hipster internet.
Something there.
Yeah, it is.
My dad
I got my feedback, so thank you for the advice. That's awesome.
Oh, great. All right, let's see. I just had I really hope I'm not mispronouncing it. I think Peque or
It's Peque. It's,
Peque, thank you.
My nickname, yeah.
Yeah, I just saw you up here next to the pink tiger, and I'm wondering where you went. Oh, there you are.
Oh yeah, I like scribbling around with I don't know. I really like the collaborative process about this software. So it's the first time that I'm doing this. So I think that it's really promising what you can do with this. Because now you can be like whatever you want. We are like in really different places around the world, and we are doing the same thing. And even teaching with this, that's really cool software. But anyways, I was just scribbling around.
Yeah.
My process is like I like drawing. What I do is I'm working now as a biz dev, but I'm doing more environments. So, but I like to do everything. I really like the most thing that I like the most about is telling a story with the drawing. So I think that I need to have something to say, to draw. And I think that's it. Pretty much that's what motivates me.
Yeah, and the whole collaborative thing you were talking about, I'd be really interested to use this as a tool, like in some of those first high concept conversations, where you're usually sitting there doodling something anyway, as you're listening to the story. It'd be really cool to have a meeting like that on a platform like this, or even just meet up with an art director on this platform. It'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I think we're gonna go over to Kelly.
Hello.
This guy's really coming along.
Thanks. Yeah. My process for this has just been kind of like I think you can see it if I turn the layers on and off, right? Yeah, I just started with this like simple drawing, and then just built up a silhouette, and then started kind of rendering on top. And then I was thinking about the light as it essentially being like a top-down, like a light either from the top or behind. And I was still kind of clarifying where I wanted it to be coming from, but and then focusing on just separating out shapes and values. I think that's what I've been trying to focus on improving at lately, is just trying to almost what someone said earlier about having a meditative process when you're painting, which is to just figure out what you're problem solving, like what you're trying to problem solve, and then just start doing it and be very clear and deliberate about it. And I think for me, that is going in and having very clear shapes that are separated from each other. And so that's what I'm focusing a lot on when I'm working lately.
It's almost a little bit like sculpting when you get to that point. Yeah. I mostly have done 2D stuff, but recently been taking now working at Gnomon, I've been taking a lot of 3D courses, and I noticed that by getting into ZBrush and starting to sculpt and work with 3D forms and light and how you move the light, it's completely added to my 2D approach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important.
No,
sculpture is a huge addition to drawing.
And it's so fun. I think being able to do value composition and art directing your values, being able to turn a 3D form and position the light, really helps you brainstorm what you want to do.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. This is really cool, Kelly. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Appreciate
with us.
that.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna just kind of come straight down to I think Ryan.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know what's this. I'm just gonna kind of ramble and just tell me to shut up whenever.
Okay. No problem.
I've kind of just like my thing is storytelling. I'm like an emotional capture camera. That's always been like my draw. I was that kid that was folding printer paper in half and making comics throughout my entire K through 12, and casually listening to my classes. But so I went kind of full circle back to that recently, because I really fell into the love of failing over and over and over again that comics provides. And you're just drawing everything in comics. It all depends on the story. So the story provides the assignment. It's like now you've got a mountain scene. Okay, now there's an interior. Okay, now there's a dramatic scene where someone's crying. How do you sort of tap into that and stir that emotion in the viewer? And that's sort of been like my drive. So like everything I wind up drawing and painting, it's always coming back to finding that. So whenever the method changes all the time, it's like whether I'm using traditional medium pencil watercolor or I'm in Photoshop or more recently Clip Studio, which is great, by the way. I'm not sponsored by them, but I think the brush engine they have is far superior to Photoshop for some things anyway.
I've heard really good things about Clip Studio. Yeah,
I don't know what it is. It's so much. It feels so much more like you're working on real materials. So and this guy I'm drawing here, this knight, is a Palladian knight from my comic book, which if you're a fan of dark fantasy and the whimsy of Zelda and that kind of thing combined, that's definitely something.
Where are you right now on the canvas? I'm trying to find you.
Me? Oh, I'm down here on the right. There's this knight looking Valkyrie helmet guy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then this weird spoonbill behind him.
Yeah,
with
awesome.
A mohawk.
Yeah, these guys are great. It looks a lot like working in marker, actually, with the way that you rendered it. I really like it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what this program can do, and working with the cool limitations and messing around like everybody else here. So
I love how I've kind of noticed that a lot of you have sort of migrated over to other artist stuff and kind of played around with that and done a little rendering, and I love that. Another really cool thing that you wouldn't be able to see without this.
Yeah. I'm super honored to have Craig painting on my painting. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought that too.
How cool is that, right?
I actually took a screenshot. I'm not gonna lie.
He's actually using a mouse now just for you.
It wouldn't make much difference.
Well, with that, I think we'll talk about what you're doing now, Craig, since we've got you on topic.
No,
I know, because I've heard you teach. I know there's so much that can be said about your process, but is there anything you'd like to share about, maybe what you're focusing on right now?
I suppose it's kind of difficult to, with everybody doing, their thing everywhere, it's difficult to focus on, big shapes first, because whoever has the top layer is going to rule. So, but no, so I'm just kind of focusing on little tiny, detailing, because a lot of times, this a funny tool like this, or a new tool, I should say, is difficult to control precisely. So I'm really trying to just little tiny things, like on Nikolai's strung out dude here. It's basically just trying to figure out how to get some type of gnarly skin texture and subdividing shapes. So that's kind of all I'm trying to do here.
Thank you, Craig. You're making it so much better.
I don't know about that. Nikolai, I wanted to ask you, like, I know I started to go through your schoolism class on the iPad.
Yeah.
And I make no secret that I'm not a fan of all things Apple, and the fact that it doesn't have a file system. And I just really wonder, how do you sleep at night? I mean, and like, I make a painting that's 1280 by 960 or something, and it turned out to be 5 gigs on the Apple.
Yeah.
And it's like they're pushing me into massive amounts of buying space for backup at a premium. And as I say, there's no file system. I can't work on sending it to different things. You have different versions all over the place. It's I just can't take it. But I mean, you've been doing this since like 2011, since the iPad came out, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And you haven't had any meet your maker moments with using iOS for professional work?
Well, I wasn't an Apple fan to begin with. I came from the Microsoft world, and then but sort of the Trojan horse for me was the iPhone, because you could actually sketch on that, and that was like a mini sketching computer for me. And then I actually wished for, like, I wish they could make it bigger, but so I could just be the size of a little sketchbook or something like that, and maybe have 10 hours of battery. That would be awesome. And then the iPad came, and it was just like, they made it for me. And and it was but when Procreate came out, that was the game changer. And and I've, like you said, I've done all my work in Procreate since 2011, and
I read that,
and I never but I never lost anything, Craig. Like like, it can crash, the iPad can crash, it does sometimes, but it saves every brush stroke you do in the background, so you're safe. Like, what I use is a Dropbox account. So I just save up the Dropbox and then deliver that to the client. And if it's a PSD or a Procreate file. So it's I've had very good experience. I never lost anything, and that was not the case in Photoshop.
Well, I mean, I mean, that's fascinating to hear.
Yeah, but you tried Procreate. What do you think?
I find that having to go up to the upper right corner to choose a color every single time difficult. Maybe I don't know how to use it. Is there a way I can get around that? I know there's various ways of popping up the color picker right on top of things. I don't know. I have been working hard with it. But I really like Infinite Painter on iPad. There's something that just works better for me, and I end up getting a painting that I like. Whereas I've probably done 50 paintings in Procreate, and still I haven't done one that I like. So it's not an issue of the program. The program is genius. It's beautifully designed, but it just doesn't fit with me. It's not you, it's me. So
no,
anyway,
but ask me anytime if you want any tips for making the workflow in Procreate.
You've already done that with your schools and course, and when I get the time, I'm going to go through it, and maybe that will help me out some.
Yeah, but that's awesome that you want to do that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic tool. I mean, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to work with it successfully.
One of the things I noticed about using the iPad versus like my Cintiq or Wacom tablet is the feel of the stylus. Using an Apple Pencil on an iPad, to me anyway, feels more like drawing, because the pencil doesn't give it all. It feels like you're using a pencil on paper. So I'll do a lot of drawing sometimes on the iPad and then bring my line work into Photoshop and use Photoshop for painting. But it has more to do with the physical stylus for me. But Craig, you transitioned beautifully to Nikolai. So Nikolai, is there anything more that you wanted to tell us about either what you're working on here or maybe even just something that is new for you or that you're focusing on in your process right now?
Well, here I'm kind of working just with the beginning with kind of line art, which is not really the way I work most of the time. Because I grew up with line art and just a pencil work or ballpoint pen or so, but looking at artwork from, for example, Craig Mullins or other really artists that I admired, I saw that they don't have the same line work. They were more like blocking things out more in the painterly ways. I really tried. I wanted to do that as well, so I tried to get into that, or I used that method for many years now, but I sometimes still go back. Like I think that knowing both ways is much stronger than just knowing one way.
Yes.
And I can block out from silhouette, and I really like to work with silhouette and block out, but sometimes if I need to that arm, I can't get it with just blocking the silhouette. It's just have a funky angle or something, then I will go back to the line art to make that work and then continue blocking. It's just I think if you start out with a very detailed line art, you kind of lock yourself to that before you do any value. So I like to get some values down first and use more a big brush in the beginning and then work my way down in detail. So quick small thumbnails is sort of what I usually start out with.
I can really identify with that, and I think you just helped solve something for me. And that is, it's easier for me to visualize stuff in more of like volumetrically, like if I block out shapes and value. But I've been working on my line art, and the idea of like just transitioning between the two, using a line when you need it, that's great. That actually really helps me out. That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I remember in Craig's schoolism course, maybe it was just an epiphany for me. This might be like painting 101, but for me, it like completely locked something in. And Craig, that was when you were teaching us to just, obviously work with limited values, lock down the values, and just observe the shapes. And you had us go through that. And then at a certain point, okay, by the way, guys, everything that I've been having you do is like 80% of your painting. Once you can map out your shapes and get it to read that way, then it's all just a matter of, pushing and pulling edges and, bringing in more values and stuff. And that really like opened the door for my process.
Well, cool.
Yeah, no, it was super helpful. All right. I have to remember that I'm also hosting this because I could just go around and geek out on what everybody's doing. I don't want to skip everybody. All right, we almost hopped over Sparth here. I want to zoom in down there. And this is really cool. I think if someone showed it to me, I would know that it is a Sparth painting. Sparth, can you talk to us a little bit about how you're approaching what you've done here, given the tools that you're working with?
I think that blocking out shapes in a very geometric and graphic way is, after a while it just becomes a bit of a habit. So sometimes it becomes also a bit of a cliche. But when you are confronted to a new app like that, you're gonna go into quite some archetypes. You're gonna go straight to the big shapes, and you're gonna exaggerate that, which is what we sort of do, but in a pretty fun way. Personally, I even though with less of the experience and the groundbreaking breakthroughs that Greg had, I think I'm just really proud of the Greg school, to be honest. And through the years, I mean, there's still so much things I need to really learn, especially when it comes to very scientific oriented renderings, for example, that might just be representing in a very soul type of way what reality is acting like when it comes to light bouncing, water, and any type of reflections and specular. All these things, I still always think I have a ton to learn on that. But it's true that I think that on the design side, I think after a while, you have a bit of these habits coming back where that you're going to use specific shapes, and these shapes at first they're just undifferentiated, and then after a while you adopt them and you start to paint with these shapes and to just like say, hey, these shapes could be mine, and I could just have a full resonating and rhythmical painting going on with just these graphic shapes, and that's how things just start to just happen, to be honest. It is a fact that, like what you were saying earlier about blocking out a painting, at one point you realize that the blocking out and the composition and the flow, which is really like the visual flow of your painting, is the things that prevail on any type of rendering, to be honest. I think that best is to have both. And personally, I know I've always struggled when it comes to the rendering side. What I mean is that I could block in like something that I think I can get confident with when it comes to composition. But as soon as it goes into, you need to find all the details and you need to just finish the nitpicky things on that. And then I start to just like overdo things, and I just get lost sometimes into layers that are useless. And so I think I'm way more confident in myself when I time myself into things that I need to do. If I have an hour or 30 minutes, I know I'm going to be a better artist than if I have 8 hours in front of me. Otherwise, I would just like make things linger in a way that doesn't make a lot of sense, So timing myself, I'm always having on my desk a visual time timer, and this one is really awesome. And I just put like 30 minutes or anything. Again, there's always been a lot of controversy out of the whole speed painting thing that became a bit of a crazy fad that was like relatively useless, to be honest. But at first, I know that you need to constrain yourself into having like barriers when it comes to either time or even techniques. Look at the way of blocking a painting through just flat shapes and flat, like no pressure sensitivity is amazing. It can teach you to just like go straight to the point on a painting, being able to do your fast block-ins, and I think that's way more it's just way more of an advantage than just the fact of going straight into rendering. I mean, composition is still really my real passion is composition, which is playing with shapes, design, and composition through a nice flow where you see that there's a bit of an entry point in your painting, there's an exit point, you're going to just have a bit of a visual trip that is going to be lasting like 10 seconds for a viewer, and that prevails. But if you put a rendering into a composition that is just half-baked, it's always going to be a fail. But if you actually nail down your compo super fast, and then at the same time you are going to have enough confidence to make it happen where you made it right, then you can render all you want, and you're not going to screw it up, except if you over render, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think there's a bit of that process where composition just comes first. It's the flow of your image. It's what you want to be conveying through storytelling, of course. The factor is a given, but composition is the thing that will make the backbone of your image be something viable and something that you can push forward.
Absolutely. I actually remember, I think it was on your Gumroad, I downloaded a couple of lessons that you did or demos that you did, and downloaded your brush pack.
Thank you.
And while it's the age-old question. Oh, what brushes do you use? The brush pack is not going to make you paint like Sparth, but what I discovered was by downloading your brushes, it helped me to understand the way that you think. And there were a lot of no pressure, totally opaque brushes that were different geometrical shapes that forced me to start painting without pressure sensitivity. And it got me thinking a lot more about value composition, edge control, other ways to render besides just having a gradient. So it was really, really fun.
Yeah, I think there's a full discussion we could have about, custom shapes, for example, that we started using back around 2010 with Tom Scholars, and it was fun stuff. But it's true that when it comes to plain brushes, I think that if you use just one brush, some people are really talented at using one single brush. I think I personally feel less confident at doing that, even though you can have a lot of wise moments like you can encounter a lot of wins by doing this. But I think the best balance for me is when you have 5-6 brushes that are completely interconnected and compatible with each other. When I do this, then I just play with a graphic game. It's like a visual bouncing of shapes. For example, if I use 3 brushes, I'm going to use like one line, like the line tool, and then you're going to use spheres, and then you're going to have just like one textured brush. If you use the 3 together, you can have texture and graphic balance coming in, and you can have a real resonating of style. If you use 30 brushes, the style disappears. The bouncing of shapes disappears. You go into a very like super rendered intent, which is fine too. It depends on what you want to be doing. Okay, it's just not like there's just not like one right approach. I know that personally. If I use 40 brushes on a canvas, people will be saying, "Oh, I think you over-rendered that thing." In my approach, because I would not see my shapes just like appear or be kept. If I use one brush, I'd also be a bit in trouble because I would not be able to have that visual bounce and that visual rhythm going on. If I use 5, 6 to 8 brushes, then I can create that visual game of bouncing between shapes, between just like patterns. Optically, the eye is always attracted to rhythms, and you want to see these rhythms just come in, and being able to just in a subliminal way implement these rhythms and these graphic shapes into a canvas is the best way to not only have a fun, attracting style coming in, but it also, when it comes to a bit of a 30% abstraction in your painting, it actually asks the viewer to complement and to finish the painting with his own brain. And that's another very important factor that I'm always attached to.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and yeah, I love that. We presume that your viewer has an imagination. That's why you're making an image for them.
In a way, exactly. It's a way to just like not take the viewer, the spectator of your canvas, not just like filling in the job for him and just doing everything. The mental, optical job of looking at a canvas and trying to do some mental depiction of it is super important. And a lot of people tell me that when it comes to my canvas, they say, it looks unfinished, but it is finished. And there's something about your painting that makes us want to be able to finish the story you have started. And maybe it's one of the things that is fun to do.
I'm going to go back and listen to that. every one of these. I love it because we're taking this tour and it's like a bunch of little mini lessons that actually I'm going to use this stream to go back later to and learn from. Thank you very much. In the interest of getting to our next prompt, which we'll have a little bit of fun with, I'm going to come up to everybody's migrated to other people's drawings, so it's hard for me to keep track, but I'm coming up to the octopus here. Who started the octopus again?
Right here, me, Michael.
Awesome, Michael. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing here.
Just playing around. And in fact, I think that when I start playing around, when I start just zoning out and playing around versus having an exact story or an idea of what I want to draw or paint, I always come up with more interesting things. thinking like, oh, I have this concept of this story. There's this character, and he goes through this world, and it always just comes out awful. But when I just like turn on some music and start playing around with, let's say, textures or shapes that I like to draw or paint, it always comes out more interesting. And in this case, I started drawing an octopus because I love octopuses and I think they're really cool. And it's something that in the past few years I found that, developing your style or developing your look, whatever your thing is really just based on the drawing or painting things that you really love drawing or painting. And if you just say, okay, I like drawing an octopus, I also like drawing wrinkles and old people, and I love anatomy. Like, combine those three things and you will come up with something cool. I guarantee it. So that's like something so kind of basic that I recently found out for me. And everyone has their own approach of how they grow, how they learn, how they become better. In terms of approaching a drawing or a painting, I almost like I love kind of painting and drawing circular, as if like shapes are flowing, one thing flows into another. And I think I love the idea of like flowing things, like intertwining circular things, flowing one thing into another. And you can kind of see that in my style, is that like everything is kind of these like little loops and curls. And then what else I wanted to say about that is that I feel like everyone in their journey of being an artist or of practicing this, they kind of like, every time we're learning, and currently I'm learning all about working with values and the closeness of values, working in medium values, and then not making things like too contrasty too fast. And I don't know if I actually was successful in this case, but I wanted to say that you surprise yourself by going slow. I think that was really cool what Craig said about really working slow and finding shapes. Like, they will come out, like, obviously use reference, whatever, but these shapes of for example, like little things of like shadow and light, little wrinkles, little bumps, I always love when they come out. Like, you don't realize that you did them, and then you just add one little dark spot, and then you get volume, you get a 3D shape. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. I hope some of this makes sense. I hope some of this you guys can agree with, or maybe not. But that's sort of like my approach currently. It might change in a year.
Yeah, no, I hear that too. I think, we all have different ways of getting to the same principles, essentially. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing. I want to make sure that I'm able to, I know that we need to transition to the next thing, but I don't want to leave without talking to everybody here. Who's Chinchilla? I can't remember.
Chinchilla.
Chinchilla. Yeah, I see a cursor named Chinchilla.
Mystery Chinchilla.
Who is the mystery chinchilla on the canvas?
Someone just spoke.
I heard somebody giggle.
Yeah. That's okay. If you're feeling shy, that's perfectly all right too. I don't want to force anybody to share who might just want to chill and draw. That's fine as well. But I want to give Chinchilla a chance to speak up if the Chinchilla wants to. Oh, look, we have a message coming through. And it says, "Hey."
Chinchilla say?
The Chinchilla says, "Hey."
Oh, hey.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, Chinchilla. All right. Let's see here. I'm now looking at the beautiful rendering of the looks like the sort of, almost like a woman / creature holding a small.
Oh yeah, that's me.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Hey, Jessica. This is beautiful.
Hi.
Yeah, can you just take a minute or so and talk to us about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I like to start with a lot of lines and sketching and see where lines kind of take me and see what forms come out from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to you guys talk about like adding story, adding elements, kind of building out what's going on in the picture as you kind of work on it. And that already aligns with my process already with a lot of my work, which is like I just tend to let the story kind of evolve as I work through it. And especially with like personal work where somebody's paying me to like work on something that they really want from like my perspective. So usually those come with no time limit. And they're just like make something that is very like you. And that usually means I start with something like an idea, like a sketch like this. Work on it for a little bit, go away, come back, work on it a little bit, go away, live life a little bit. Maybe something I saw outside is affecting my viewpoint, come back, change and adapt and do something new to it. And eventually I have to call it and say like, all right, this is the story and you know, the idea that I'm going to go with and then push that out. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Thank you. And she's gorgeous too. I really like, I mean, I think you've also left some lovely questions to answer in terms of like what she is, who she is.
Yeah. Things were like evolving as I was going,
Totally,
like, oh, the nice hair, and then, oh, the tentacles, and then, oh, maybe some like eyes for the snake kind of element. And then she's got these little, like her gaze was looking at nothing. So I was like, oh, maybe she's, you know, having to deal with something that's like the Tribbles from Star Trek.
Or she's holding the mystery chinchilla in her hand, perhaps.
The trouble with chinchillas.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's more of them down here. All right.
I can't believe you guys have actually seen that. How old are you?
I'm a Trek nerd, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. I feel I'm so insulted.
And also,
come on, you can't be a day more than like 23.
And as a really quick aside, there was an episode of Deep Space Nine in the 90s, I believe, that brought us back to that episode. So yeah.
Oh,
they even did it in the like visual style of like the TV of the time. Yeah.
Yes.
My father was like really into sci-fi, so he used to watch that like every day when I was young. So Star Trek and.
Growing up with a nerd dad is awesome. All right, and then
who wrote the original? Who was the writer? Who wrote Tribbles?
Oh, I don't know. Is it Gene Roddenberry?
Craig's calling us out, guys.
Because I made.
Are we getting a pop quiz right now?
I was alive when that first came on the show. It was David Gerald.
Okay.
David Gerald. He even wrote a really interesting book about writing for television, and writing for Star Trek was a big part of it. I remember reading that when I was like 8 or something.
Awesome. We're I'm gonna do an impromptu stream later where we're gonna have stumping Craig in Star Trek trivia.
Also, he's got to have a limit.
Yeah. I love Star Trek, but I'll take on questions about Star Wars, but I do have limits when it comes to Star Trek. All right. I don't think we've spoken with Gabby yet.
Hi.
Hey.
I guess. Well, for me, my process is usually drawing people that are underrepresented. Usually I like to draw things that like I can see myself in. So like with my own skin tone, or like just empowering women, just because there's just not a lot of. So that's what I portray in my work a lot. Yeah, I love my culture, so I put that a lot into my own work. And I don't know.
Yeah, and she's lovely.
To show that and to see others see themselves into the art kind of thing. So.
And I can't remember. Are you working in VizDev?
Yeah. So I am. I work at Disney Digital Media Group.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a mouthful, but I do a lot of the art directing and also art for all the Disney social media. So like Pixar, Disney, all the handles. So like whatever you see that's like art. It's on the feeds. It's usually my team, and I've been there for 7-8 years now.
Awesome.
So it's been a long time.
Yeah, and I love what you've done here. I so love the more like I would call it more like more stylized viz dev type art, mainly because it's something that I can't do. I'm more of a realism person, but it's
just playing around with this program because it's like I'm not used to any of the tools, so it's just like playing around, and it's fun to see because it's like it's only one type of brush that I've noticed that everyone's been using, so it's fun to see how everyone applies their own style into it, and so it's just you're adapting to it. So
yes,
yeah,
absolutely. So I think we've heard from Nico, we've heard from Sparth, Ulises, we've heard from Michael, Fernando shared with us. Ryan, I believe we talked to you as well. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. We started out with Nneka. I think we've heard from everybody, right? Speak now or forever hold your stylus. Okay. Cool. Well, the whole point of getting together today was to have fun, to let these artists go freeform, and to just get to know them, watch them paint. But what I'd like to do in our last 40 minutes or so that we have is we'll jump on another Magma canvas, and we won't lose this one. If you go back to this link that I shared with you, you can get back to this and copy a file from it or whatever. But as I prep a new canvas for us, the prompt is going to be, we did this yesterday. One of the amazing things that's happened during social distancing, and Magma Studio is a great example of it, is with limitations come creativity. Or if someone loses a major sense, unfortunately, the other senses that remain heighten, right? So social distancing and quarantine has also been a time to kind of develop some unique superpowers. And we've seen people do this organizationally, individually, learning new skills. So the prompt is just going to simply be, what superpower would you love to have if you could have any type of superpower? And I will let you interact with that. What I will say is what we're going to do is we're going to take the first 10 to 15 minutes and let all of you kind of jump in and start sketching an idea out. And then the remaining time, we're going to try to pick one at random, or I'll figure out some way to do that. We're all going to jump on one and just go to town. I'll blow that up, and everybody will just go to town on that one sketch just for fun. So I'll get the new canvas up and running. Let's see here.
Do we need to re-click a link or something?
I'll reshare a new link with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. I'm sharing the link with you guys now in the chat.
Chinchilla said that they have not spoken.
Yeah, I saw in the chat here.
Oh. You know, I'm not sure if one of us was not the mystery chinchilla, then there is a chance that someone may have gotten our URL and jumped into the canvas with us. And if that's the case, that's one crafty chinchilla, I gotta say. So kudos, chinchilla.
They deserve to speak then.
Let the chinchilla speak.
Yes, although I can't get them on the on the Zoom call for the audio. So, but I think that the chinchilla has spoken. If we all really reflect on the time. Yes. Yeah. Okay, guys. So you should have the link. Jump in. The prompt is either a superpower you've always wanted since you had a kid, or something that comes to mind right now. But just start taking the time and just kind of rapidly iterating a sketch. And then I don't know what to do. Let's see. We started with Nneka on the last one. Nneka, after about 10, 12 minutes, I'm going to ask you to pick one sketch. And you can do that randomly or whatever, and then we'll all jump on it and start rendering. If you're cool with that.
I swear that this is like 40
God,
acres and a mule.
Go.
You have to stake out your claim.
It's the Wild West. It's the Wild West. People just start drawing very large boxes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
I like to do really big brush strokes.
God, I'm so sorry, Peque. Oh my gosh.
While these guys are doing this, we'll take a moment to share really quick. I put this into the chat earlier, but the Gnomon School is actually sponsoring the All-Star Artist Jams during Lightbox Expo Online. And we're a 3D art school in Hollywood that specializes in training artists for careers in animation, VFX, and games. We also build 3D skills on top of traditional skills, and the things that are very important foundationally to art. If you are interested in taking an individual class at Gnomon, you can. I'll pay some information on how to do that. But for those of you who are at Lightbox, we wanted to offer you guys 20% off individual class if something that we're offering is of interest to you. I will paste the info on how you can do that and the URL that you need to go to, but we just wanted to share that as our way of saying that we're super happy to be a part of Lightbox.
Nice.
And I will say, even though I work at Gnomon, but as an artist and not a Gnomon employee, I will say, like I was saying earlier, oops, let's see, pasted in the wrong window. Being more of a 2D artist myself, doing like concept design and that sort of a thing, learning 3D has been invaluable. In the concept world has been working in 3D for quite a while. 3D for 2D, but for me, just learning how to sculpt in ZBrush, how to think in 3 dimensions, and having the ability to turn a 3D form and work with an actual 3D form has really informed the way that I approach my canvas if I'm going to draw or paint a 3D form in 2D. So it's been an awesome journey doing that. Let's see.
How many people here have a VR helmet?
Ooh, me.
I do.
2?
My wife has one.
I got one like 2
one
weeks ago, and it is so completely awesome.
Yeah.
Gravity Sketch is.
Oh yeah.
It as far as like visualizing and intuitively breaking down the wall between drawing and 3D. 3D has always been way too technical for me. But yeah, Gravity Sketch and VR is completely awesome. I'm so looking forward to learning more about it. I mean, already I'm able to block out basic scenes. And,
absolutely.
I'm a little bit concerned though, and it's something that I've thought a lot about. It was the beginnings of Photoshop, and it was all photo bash, and I've photo bashed for what, 15 years maybe. Because there was that was the only way really we could, and it was very efficient, and I don't really do that now. But I don't know, the problem with 3D and photo bash is it's just making kids that start out digital, I think, not drawing as much as they should.
And that's I think that's a good point, Craig. That's one of the reasons why at Gnomon we get people started out in figure drawing, anatomy, perspective drawing, and 2D on paper, because you can't substitute those skills. And if you're working in 3D and you don't know why you're doing something in 3D, you can start to lean on the tool, and the tool starts to kind of craft you rather than you crafting the tool. So like, I mean, our founder, Alex Alvarez, he's famous for, people talking about, what's the latest thing and where should I spend my time in 3D and stuff. He'll always just say, well, just make sure you draw, just draw.
All the time. That
being said, though, I think building on the stuff that I learned from you about value and shape, Craig, and then also some of Nathan Fowkes' stuff on composition, visual composition, blocking out basic 3D forms either in like a Gravity Sketch or a Medium. Now I can do it in ZBrush. It's a really neat way to get to those value shapes, because I'll create a 3D form, whether it's a portrait or a scene, and then I can rotate it and change the angle of the light and art direct those shapes, the lights and the darks, and then export a 2D image from something that I made, and then use that as that sort of 80% foundation. And I can manipulate the color and start painting on top of it. So it's a really cool, it's a great new tool to achieve what should always be true, which is like good composition and, you know, understanding of perspective and stuff like that.
But here's my problem with that is, if you, let's say everybody starts using this tool. Now, let's say grant me the idea that the simpler tool allows the person to come through, right? Everybody has a pencil, it's all going to be different. But if you draw things and just paint things in 2D, you're going to develop a more personal way of coming about working with shapes and lighting. Now, if at the beginning you immediately go to 3D, and let's say everybody did that, then everybody's art would look the same. And even using 3D a little bit tends to have that problem, because, okay, I'm doing this really hard work of trying to come up with different ways of doing the lighting in this scene that I'm painting, and I'm working really hard and doing all these little comps, and then I get a 3D program, I block it out, and I put the light there, and okay, now that looks quite naturalistic, and it also looks very 3D. And then I do a painting based on that. And you see how that's just completely taken my struggle and my expression away?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's the same thing where, like, we can do the same thing in Photoshop if we just use stylized brushes, or I think, like Sparth was saying, if we just use a lot of different cool brushes and things like that, we can lose
in color dodge and overlay and all that.
And we can lose that intention, right? So I look at 3D as just, it's another tool, but if there's no substitute for mileage on that wrestling match you talked about, Craig, I believe. Which is, it's the reason why, just to dovetail with kind of what sparked this conversation, it's the reason why when we get students into our full-time program at Gnomon, we start them out on foundational art principles before they start learning, the 3D generalist skill set. We've had students that we have them go and sculpt in clay before we send them to ZBrush.
Well, I would say that, let's say, there's a lot of people out there in the concept art world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the job of your students is to differentiate themselves in a very crowded and competitive marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
The more people use 3D, the more they use photo bash, the more they use overlay, the more they use color dodge, the more their artwork is going to look like everybody else's. The more they hang out on ArtStation, the more they get the concept art books of whatever movie, the more it's going to become incestuous, and they're not going to be separating themselves. I know I'm talking about the long game here,
mm-hmm.
because it takes a decade to, to get good enough at it. But I don't know. It's just these tools can be so dangerous and insidious because they are so powerful. And like I say, your student's job is to get a job, and you want to come up with a portfolio that looks applicable, yes, and relevant and germane to what's being produced at this studio, but it has to look different. And I'm just afraid that, having them start out that on 2D, that's great, but eventually, the 3D given to a student in the first few years of their development is, I don't know, it's like giving them heroin. So I don't know. I'm overstating it to make my point, though. But I'm just like, what was that? About the Pinto, unsafe at any speed. 3D unsafe at any level. And here I'm talking about, oh my God, I'm getting seduced by VR now. I must resist.
Yeah. No, and I think, I think we're essentially saying the same point, which is the minute that a tool becomes a crutch, you're sacrificing the development that comes with mileage, and you're sacrificing all of the foundational stuff that has to be built to be able to go where you want to go with that tool. I know that, like, when we're looking at portfolios at Gnomon, we're looking for certain mileage to already be in place. Because I think that seductiveness of what you see, and I think it's a great way to describe it. It's sort of self-feeding. Like, if you just look at ArtStation, if your reference point is ArtStation, and you're trying to copy what you see there, you're going to be chasing your tail. it can be overwhelming. But also, I think the way that people find their style is they don't wake up one day and say, this is what my style is going to be. The style is born out of the necessity of that wrestling match, of learning the craft. And that is totally true for 3D as well. And I think the kind of values you're talking about, which is the values we push towards at Gnomon, is the reason why we have like a 97% placement rate in the industry for graduates, because we're trying to help these artists distinguish themselves and not just use a software.
Right.
Yeah, totally. But I get it. I think anytime there's a new tool, there's sort of that really fast grab that everybody makes. And just as early adopters, it's like, oh, now this like gives me a leg up and I don't have to pay attention to learning how to do that foundational thing. And that very quickly shows. Any art director looks through a 3D portfolio, they'll be able to tell if you don't know anatomy, if you don't understand some drawing fundamentals and all of those things that need to come before.
But, one thing I think is cool about new stuff, though, is people using it in ways for which it was not designed. Like Photoshop was never intended to be an illustration program.
Absolutely.
And 3D is the same thing. I mean, and that's what's neat to me about VR is it is becoming a lot more expressive.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool, and I have seen 3D artists do things that is not kind of strict naturalism, which is fascinating to me. Is using 3D as an expressive medium. It's really hard.
Well, and it's like starting to paint in Photoshop with a mouse. It's hard. And I look at guys like Yama Urabev. I think he's doing with 3D, using it unconventionally.
Yes,
like the
absolutely.
same way you took on Photoshop and helped.
Yeah, I mean, he figured out grease pencil in ways that nobody else had.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I'm curious about what he's going to do with VR. I'm sure he probably has been screwing around with it since about 15.
He's been doing some awesome sculpts in Medium, I believe, Adobe Medium. He's been doing some amazing sculpture there.
With that additive and subtractive process in Medium, that's super powerful. But it's such an amazing noise generator that I kind of worry that like everybody's going to be doing additive and subtractive sculpture with the bone collection in there, and it's all going to look the same.
I think that's a part of every like cusp of growth that happens. Is something new comes out and there's a sort of homogenization that happens, but then people realize like, no, you still can't shortcut. You can't shortcut around what needs to be learned.
Or somebody's going to figure out something different to do with it, and that's super cool.
Yeah. Somebody was speaking up there. I didn't mean to cut you off earlier.
Yeah, sorry, I was just wondering which VR painting software you've tried.
I've tried them all. Gravity Sketches is beautifully designed and works intuitively to me. I picked it up and it took very little head scratching to figure out how it works. And I just draw in 3 dimensions, and then I use a low poly surface, and I can block out figures that have the gesture that I want and the masses and the weight that they want. And for me to do that in ZBrush, because I'm so crappy at ZBrush, would take weeks.
It's
starting
very
out
intuitive.
with the Z spheres, and oh my god, I just need a bottle of aspirin.
Yeah, I tried the Quill a couple of times. I did a workshop with Goro, and it was amazing. Like
Quill? Oh, I haven't even heard of that.
Oh, seeing Goro use Quill is just so amazing to me. Like what he can create in such a short amount of time.
Yeah,
I'm constantly blown away.
Yeah, Quill is basically a painting app in VR. So your brush strokes are hanging in 3D like they always are in.
Oh my god!
In VR, in 3D,
I'm signing off right now, and I'm gonna get a try.
Oh, correct. Correct. You need to try Quill because I went into it. I've done quite a few things into it. I mean, Go has been insane on that front, but it is the most painting oriented app out there in terms of having a bit of that sculpting paint tool that you can.
Right.
It's a philosophy, but it's kind of crazy. I gotta say.
So is it similar to Tilt Brush in that you're manipulating physical paint marks?
No,
it's you know, your paint has the value and the color you choose. Like you can't set light to it later, so it's just paint hanging in air basically. So you have to, the light has to come from how you paint the light, and so it's more a painting app like that than any 3D.
Cool.
So the next All-Star Jam will be in VR, right?
I hope so.
That'd be really well. Yeah. People are doing it now, which is really neat. They're like putting themselves in front of a green screen, and they're compositing together what is being seen in VR space with what's physically in front of the camera, and you can just watch them work like magic with what they're doing.
Now we know what's going to be in the next Magma patch, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you guys have like progressed super fast on this canvas, and I love it because we don't have to pick any one person's sketch now. I think what we can do is what we did yesterday is I'd love to just quickly, you know, popcorn style, hear from everybody what kind of power they went after and why.
Sure. I can start. I'm in the top left corner.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was a kid, I always just loved swimming and being underwater, and I always loved the idea of being able to breathe underwater because there's just so much you could explore. There's like a whole entire other world under the ocean that most humans haven't even seen, and being able to just kind of casually explore at my own leisure because I can stay down as long as I want without any technology just seemed like the coolest thing ever. So yeah,
that's
awesome.
Kind of.
So I basically drew like a merman version, I guess, of a person.
Yeah, super cool.
He mutated and grew some gills.
That's so funny because like right below mine is, I was kind of vibing off of Nneka right next to me, and it's funny because you got like aquatic, and then you got mine that's also kind of aquatic, where I feel like the same thing as you, where it's like I always wanted to be like a mermaid, but not really because I am terrified of the ocean. So it's fun to see like Nneka play with me, or I actually play with her because it's like I saw her making this like fire.
Yeah.
We could do something similar, and so now they're like kind of like, I don't know, sisters or something.
I love the duality. Yeah.
Awesome. And Gabby, that was that's you right down the lower left-hand corner, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Who do we have? Oh, Ray. I'm perceiving something to do with electricity.
Yeah. Growing up, I was just always a huge fan of Static Shock. I thought that was such a cool show. I thought the way he uses powers was so interesting to me, and I guess for this one, I had a little fun and went more for like a villain kind of approach. So I tried to go a bit more edgy, more sharp. But yeah, I just think being able to control electricity, being able to charge my phone on hand.
That's awesome. Everything like for you is cordless, right? Like at no cords.
Exactly. And then I can probably start my own electric company and like profit a bit. That'd be nice.
So good. Your electric car doesn't need a battery.
Yeah.
This is okay.
Plus, yeah, lightning was. I always thought lightning was also so cool in Avatar. So I was like, that'd be cool. I'd do that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Nneka, she looks awesome. Tell us about what you're working on.
She's just like a fire girl, like what Gabby's saying, just vibing off of that. I love fire, but I also I'm like scared of it. Like it just looks really pretty to look at, and I just had the feeling like just having this girl that's able to make her skin almost like magma and just like fire, and it can like harden and like shell off, and just like it's a crest on her skin. So it's just like playing with that idea, because I think it's really cool when you're able to play with the body itself as opposed to like an external power. So
yeah. Well, and are you saying then if you had the power to manipulate fire, then you wouldn't have to be quite so apprehensive of it?
yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's I think we've heard from a couple of people now who have you almost leaned into your fear a little bit by going after your power. I love it. Let's jump up to this super amazing looks like a hippopotamus who's screaming. Tell us about this being here.
Well, I should probably apologize because this is not something I ever wanted to be.
No problem.
But I don't know. I just cut the name in my head, Hip Widow. There's definitely elements of time travel here because it could also be an hourglass. Some kind of sonic breath. I was thinking of Shin Godzilla for a minute, and then I decided to do circles instead of a beam. And I definitely can jump on the theme of being afraid of this.
Of hippos?
Of hippos, yeah, certainly. And certainly hip widows or whatever this is.
That's awesome.
It's a healthy fear, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's go over to Nico.
Yeah. It just sort of came out like some sort of Birdman. Because what you were saying, I was thinking of the coronavirus, and he has to have a face mask, but it's like it's not a super power in itself just to avoid the corona. But if you can, if you have a face mask and you can fly, you at least have a good start to.
Yeah, ultimate social distancing. Just fly 6 feet above. Everyone.
Exactly.
Don't go anywhere you need to.
You can sneeze down on people.
Oh no!
if you want, like I would never do that.
If you're a supervillain.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. All right, cool. I'm gonna go over to Ulises.
Yeah. So this question was super easy for me because I'm constantly thinking of this. So like a superpower that I would absolutely want is the ability to teleport whenever and wherever, and also to bring anyone or anything with me. So I thought like a portal. I always imagine myself like teleporting like in Dragon Ball Z where it's like instant transmission or whatever. But I thought like the portal thing was more fun to draw. But yeah, I like every time I am like somewhere, I don't know, just like the commute from one point to the other. It's just like, oh, I just wish I could just travel, like teleport to Hawaii, like right now, you know? So yeah, that's something that I always think about. Like, I wish I could do this, but I can't.
Super cool. The power of teleportation came up yesterday, and we decided that would be the ultimate power when we have to go back to work after social distancing, because we don't have to commute now, and with the teleportation thing, you still don't have to commute. You can save all that time.
Oh yeah.
All right, let me zoom out here a little bit here. Oh, let's go back. I didn't mean to jump over Sparth here. I think this is you down in the lower center. Is that right?
Yeah, the gray. Let's just like make some rocks fly thing going on. And I think it's pretty straightforward.
Moving rocks with your mind.
Well, it's just, you know, I've seen my kids through the years being fascinated by Last Airbender, you know, the series, and that thing. It was genuinely very funny. When the first time we watched it, they could not stop laughing, and I remember the storytelling and the character interactions. I've got kind of great souvenirs of watching that series for the first time and then watching it several times afterwards with them. And and it's all about the one that is just like kind of the wishful one would be like being able to just transform things. You know, I think everything I do is probably more or less connected to architecture and stuff. So being able to just like make your own sandcastle is just pretty cool, you know.
Super
giant
cool.
one.
Yeah, and my kids are super into that show too, and I love the way they developed that idea with the elements. And then there's an internet guy that basically figured out a way to explain it all through science, which was
nice,
which was fantastic. Yeah. All right, let's see here. All right, let's go to the upper right-hand corner. Is this, your cursor's moving fast, but is that Michael?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't really follow the assignment, but as people were drawing and speaking, I was like, how can I bullshit myself out of this one? I'm gonna say
a lot of good art is born that way, right?
That's basically it, right? Like draw something and then come up with a story later. And I actually think that there is something to that the story comes out on its own, because as you draw, like your subconscious is like actually speak. If you let it, it'll speak out, and the owner's like, oh, that's what it's telling me. So I think that this thing is telling me one thing is like the power of sight in some weird way, of being all seeing in all different ways, of being able to see in space and time, like being able to see everything, basically, what having a vision of what you're supposed to be doing, not necessarily seeing the future, but seeing the right path. And then the other question is like, why is this dude like some kind of an alien ogre? I don't know, because I think, you know, the ogre will surprise you at the end, you know, because
you want to be a mutant.
They were all seeing and all knowing.
Yeah. And you could have said the time thing right off the top, and you would have completely fooled me. I would have been like, yeah, he knew what he was doing, like the whole thing with the sight and all of that. So yeah, I'm sold. Good pitch.
Thanks.
All right. Let's see here. Gonna jump down to the lower right hand corner. And who are we working with down here?
Oh, have I been working flipped this whole time? Okay.
Or maybe we're all just flipped.
I think that's me.
Yeah.
I think that's you, Adam Float, hovering around. You said right, and I'm on left. Okay.
Is that you, Jessica?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, talk to us about what you're doing.
So when I was younger, I remember being really attracted to like the Dunwich horror stuff, and being able to like move in between like the dimensions between people's fears and stuff. And like I was really into fears and kind of like what other people were psychologically maybe going through, and like how that would look, being able to tap into that dimension and see those things. And I don't know, that just was very like appealing to me. It was kind of like peeking into somebody else's secrets, I guess. And I couldn't decide, so I put another guy in the upper right. I've also secretly always wanted to have like yokai powers, where only I can like affect small stuff, like causing the creaking in your house, or like losing your tablet pen. I've always wanted to be able to do like little mischief stuff like that.
That's awesome. I love it. And then who's the little guy here? Looks like he's using his brain to lift up some toy trucks and some rocks down here in the lower right as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about levitation. You know, that's one thing that when I'm stuck on traffic is the only power that I want to have, you know. I can levitate and get to what I want. Here is like it's packed with cars. Now, no, because you're like in pandemic, you know, age. Normally it's like crazy. So that's one that I thought, the first one that I thought that would be nice to have.
Now, the question for me is, would you levitate all of the other cars out of your way, or will you just levitate yourself out of the traffic jam?
Yeah, either way. Sometimes I think all the others, but yeah, maybe levitate mine is smarter, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely had that thought myself. I was like, oh, it'd be so easy if I could just lift up my car and just float over the rest.
Yeah, it probably depends what you had for breakfast that day, right?
Has anybody else had the dream where you can make yourself fly at will? Like that sort of lucid dreaming where you're like, oh, wait, I have superpowers now. Or
not at will. I always have to do a running start.
Oh, yeah, cool. There's always something that initiates it. Yeah. Awesome. Let's see here. We talked with Nico, Nneka, Gabby, Ray. Craig, where are you working?
Where?
Yeah, where are you on the camp? Oh, you're up here in the upper left, right?
Yeah. No, I'm behind the hippo.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't stake out my claim early enough. And I got relegated.
It's
oh,
like,
there's some room down here.
It's like the shoguns of Japan.
Yeah. So superpower, huh?
Yeah.
Well, there's a really old idea. I think it probably goes back to the Enlightenment. That if you knew the starting position of every object down to quarks in the universe, you could predict the future. And this very old idea, but of course, with more wacky understandings of the nature of the universe at extremely large and small scales, it's not Newtonian anymore, and specifically it cannot be predicted. So that's gone. But I have a better idea. Okay. And that is so think about a digital image, and let's make a digital image is basically made up of tiny squares. And let's start out with a buffer that's 256 by 256, and just grayscale, 256 different levels of gray. So what is and I know a mathematician can probably help me out with this. Let's say if you go through every conceivable different, so like the first pixel is the first state of your buffer is everything is 0. Second state is the upper left corner is 1 and everything else is 0. So now let's go through all conceivable states of this small buffer. You probably get into the trillions, right? But the thing is you would conceivably then make a picture of everything that is conceivable in the universe. So you could be looking at the face of God and you wouldn't even know it. So, and I'm not even sure how you would really even recognize it. And you could have AI go through the output and see if it actually saw something that was interesting. But think about, every image that's ever been, every image on Google or every image that you could possibly conceive of could be reduced down to this, and you could show every conceivable image just by being organized about it. So that's what I would do.
I love it. And maybe you just described a little bit of reality, right? I mean, isn't every conceivable thing happening, but just linearly in space time as opposed to all at once?
Well, if that's the
awesome.
point of time, is to make sure it doesn't all happen at once.
That's cool. Did you watch the show Devs by any chance?
No.
That they deal with a lot of that idea of like, can you predict the future if you assume that if you know the starting point of everything?
Well, you can't because of Heisenberg.
Right.
You can't do it.
But yeah, no, super cool stuff. I could nerd out on that for the next hour. Let's see. Is there anybody we haven't talked to yet? I noticed that Chinchilla is not with us, unfortunately.
Chinchilla, no. Oh, wait, if he's not on the Zoom call, he would have gotten the link.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. I've got
a nice coat now.
Oh my.
If they were not supposed to be here.
Yeah. No, chinchillas are amazing because I think they're the only real creature that's the closest thing to Pikachu. Let's see. We talked to Ryan, Fernando. I think we got everybody, right? Speak up if I haven't come around to what you're doing. But yeah, believe it or not, guys, we're at time. We just hit the 3:00 mark, and this has been super fun. I've had so much fun doing this.
Thank you so much, everybody. That was really cool.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you so much for coming on the call.
This was really fun.
Yeah, this has been super
It was an honor.
And I love the conversation that emerges along the way too. There's so much stuff.
How do I disconnect?
You don't. You're stuck here on
don't.
my screen forever now.
Stuck here.
Yeah.
I'll just wander off and leave it connected.
We finally
You'll be the ghost in my machine now, Craig.
Okay.
Just leave a live feed into your house.
All right, I'm leaving. All right, bye everybody.
All right, bye. Thank you.
See you, everybody.
Bye.
All right.
See ya.
Okay, I'm just gonna wrap up the stream, guys. You can feel free to keep drawing. When I cut the stream, it's not gonna cut our canvas. But just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been in the chat, everybody who tuned in to watch. Those of you coming over from Lightbox Expo online this weekend, welcome. Gnomon's been super thankful and super proud to host you and host all these incredible artists. For those of you who may not be familiar with what Lightbox is, and just kind of found us on the internet, it is an amazing conference for artists that was debuted last year in Pasadena, California, and has gone completely online for this year, and it is incredible. So go check out lightboxexpo.com to find the schedule. I think literally only costs $1. You can jump in and get access to everything that's happening for just $1. And the team that's put that on has done an incredible job. Gnomon is just to close out and to mention the discount that I mentioned earlier. Gnomon is really happy to be a part of Lightbox this year. We are a 3D art school in Hollywood that specializes in training artists for VFX, games, and animation. And we build all of that on top of the really strong fundamental art skills. We're training some of the artists that are working in some of your favorite movies and games. We also offer individual classes in addition to our full-time programs. And right now, for everybody who's at Lightbox, we wanted to mention that if you are interested in taking a single course at Gnomon, all of our classes are online presently, and we'd like to offer you a 20% discount on that class. So when you register for the class, just use the code LIGHTBOX, kind of a no-brainer, really easy code to remember. And I'll paste the details for that in our chat. And also mention, if you want to get in touch with Gnomon, how you can do that. I'm just going to take care of that right now, guys. Got about 1 billion windows open on my monitor here. Got to navigate that. And then I'll throw a little link in here. If you're interested in getting in touch with me to hear more about Gnomon or to speak with really anybody at the school, you can also follow the link that I just put in here. And we will be back again at 3 o'clock for another artist jam. So take a breath for an hour, come back and join us again if you like. And we'll be going right up until right before the Concept Art Awards begin this evening, which will also be hosted right here on Gnomon's Twitch channel. And with that, I want to say thank you to all the artists who have jumped in here and you guys have made an amazing time for us. Thank you so much for your art, for your interaction, for sharing about yourselves. It's been really great getting to know you.
Yeah, thanks for hosting, Adam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much.
My pleasure, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Cool. So we're signing off for the stream. We'll see everybody in an hour.